Welcome to our continuation of the Return of Ichigo Mole, which we began yesterday. This is sitting number 2 with a puzzle level from 2018 in the original Super Mario Maker by Tetraterix, also known as John, or for those of you in Mario Maker 2, Four Wings. We started this yesterday and got past checkpoint 1 and kind of spun our wheels for a bit and ran into a lot of moles and died. Partly just from puzzle fatigue, I think. So we're going to take a fresh look at it today. We're going to try to get a little bit further. As was typical of puzzles, pretty much as soon as I logged off and had a chance to actually think about the part where I was stuck near the end of yesterday's stream, I kind of had it click immediately. So there is something new I want to try right away that will hopefully get us a little more progress. And welcome in D.I. Pergan, who I understand has also been engaging in a bit of code archaeology in Mario Maker 1. Anyway, let's return to the Return of Ichigo Mole. Now there is an optional pink coin objective in this that we haven't even begun to crack, and so even in the process of retreading everything that took us up to checkpoint 1, we will probably have to give that some thought, just in case we have any new insight on that front. Anyway, let's move this guy out safely. I died a lot to these moles along the way. And so yeah, we drop that guy down. Bring him over. Pow block kills the muncher. Doesn't seem to get me anything else, but we'll get through this gate right away and try not to die. Okay, this is the central element of this part of the puzzle, where each of the Bill Blasters gradually unlocks. And when they unlock, they each give me a different power-up to proceed through the level, starting with Mushroom, proceeding to Rebo's Shoe, and then the Stiletto, and then the Big Boot. Presumably the last of these power-ups will be the large Stiletto, but I do not yet know that for a fact. Anyway, Mushroom's going to get way ahead of me here. So we'll just do the usual lost levels thing and bump it up and proceed. Okay. This we do remember from yesterday. This is the part that reminds you that Small Mario doesn't have a crouching animation in Mario Maker 1. But still has the SMM1 Easter egg. The bomb collision with the semi-solid here, in terms of being reachable with Fire Flower, that's something that we've had to see and remind ourselves of a few times, but Infinite P-Switch is going to get me down here, and the mole is going to send me up. Okay. And yeah, you do have to be small in order to get through this guy. Notice that coin 1 is already visible up above. We don't really have a good sense of how to get that yet, but we may need to return to that later. Just looking at this, it might involve a POW, but even if you hit the bottom question block here, I don't know if that's necessarily going to spawn anything unless it's something on wings. It may just be at a point in the layout where we need to approach it from up top, not from below here. This is, after all, Mario Maker 1. We do need to think about these spaces as contiguously connected and always kind of placed next to each other in this jigsaw fashion, simply because of the lack of scroll stop in the original game. It does mean that in Mario Maker 1 we very often see some fascinating jigsaw-style layouts. I love these boot dispensers, by the way. I said that about one of the other dispensers yesterday, but maybe not this one. And that as far as methods for clearing boots go, this little buzzy shell eraser is a particularly nice trick. Anyway, let's get this down here, and let's take the boot upstairs. This much I think I can reconstruct. as long as we don't make too many mechanical mistakes along the way. And this is the big mole gate. We haven't used it to its fullest extent just yet, but if we send this mole to the left, it's not going to get me anything at the moment. There's a lot here that strongly implies crushing some blocks with a big stiletto later on. But for the moment, we'll just take this and see what we can do down here. Yeah, so if you crush this and destroy these blocks, this passage, I don't remember if that remains open, because I don't remember if that is permanently bombed. It is not. It does reset due to vines, so... yeah, this bit I'll also have to see if I remember. It does let you drop the donut blocks all the way down, which means that you can circle around here and take something up with you this way. Or, of course, just take the boot to the right, which you can't do because of the spike and the boot's signature interaction of hopping up and down as you go. So, yes, so this is what we do. That we've bombed that, we now have the ability to take this upstairs. As I discovered, it is possible to drop this in such a way that you can take this and the boot upstairs. It's a little finicky to do it, and it doesn't actually get you anything interesting, I think. I don't believe it allows me to break anything. And indeed, it's not something tricky at all, because you can just circle around with the boot, and so the whole trick of trying to send this up while staying below was ultimately kind of pointless. So, yeah, let's take this guy up. And then we're going to use it in conjunction with the big Monty Mole that spawns between the blasters to the right, and which can be released by either of these small mole gates. Because the idea, I think, was to have a mole come down... whoops, my mistake. The idea was to have a mole come down and drop on this location and get bounced up here, such that it's able to unlock the pathway to checkpoint 1. I do see it again now, so we'll hopefully be able to get this done fairly smoothly without accidentally killing the mole or killing Mario along the way. As you can see, I think there is eventually going to be some kind of interaction that takes the mole up here and to the left, but it will not be relevant to me until I manage to destroy this block, likely with the stiletto, and escort the mole to the left from here. That's something that I predicted, but which we will not have a chance to see just yet. Anyway, we're going to take this with us, just in case, because it is spawning in that location, and then that allows me to take a boot up to CP1, and then we'll be fairly close to where we left off yesterday. CP1 is pretty much as far as I got before running into some trouble later on. Notice P-switch kind of gates this off from the ability to do a similar rising interaction here. Yes, this is a segment where I spawn a mole, I try not to get killed by it, and I send it across to the right side. So we'll spawn it, and get within that box. We'll try not to kill it. Drag it over, race it over, and send it over to this very risky looking location, where its forward momentum will very gracefully allow it to sail above my head. And then that is down. So that gives me stiletto, which so far, in terms of any actual power it gives me, beyond what we get with a normal boot, it's really not much at the moment that I can think of. But we'll see. There could be something I'm forgetting about it in terms of what the stiletto is able to stand on. I've played enough boot levels and boot puzzle levels at this stage in Maker 2 that you would think I'd remember some of these particulars, but for remembering them while you are in the midst of playing a level, of course, is a totally different story. Oh, and time's up here anyway, so we'll just need to redo that last bit. Now, unless you really know your way through this, I would assume clear check is really tight. I did see entering this that there is a current standing world record that is just under the 8-minute mark by somebody who had mapped it out. But yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of things quite efficiently here. And of course, there might be some other locking mechanisms or knowledge checks that we just don't know about yet that allow you to shortcut much of the level and shortcut much of this initial puzzle-solving sequence. But we don't know that yet, so let's get back to the stiletto and see what we can do. Yeah, we do need to take it all the way up through the door, and then we'll grab the fire flower from there. Flower obtained. Yeah, notice how the stiletto still lets you get under these one-tile gaps, even when you are a 2-tile high Mario. This is a very important interaction that we'll probably have to remember and use later on in terms of being able to sneak a large Mario through some of those smaller spaces. I think that's something that's very easily overlooked, that knowing this level may come in very handy later on. Alright, let's drop in. Yeah, notice this coin here, I would have to dislodge it using a note block from on top. We don't have a good way of doing that right now. We almost certainly have to drop in from above here as well, but this is the second coin that we've had to account for. Nothing really for me to interact with here just yet, unfortunately. So we'll peel the boot. Get through here. And then we will continue to progress. One thing that's important is I haven't really checked this area at all yet. This is just entirely being able to escort a boot or a trampoline over to this side, and from there being able to get into the top left of the layout. Not much insight into how to do that just yet, but we'll let the shell dispenser do its job. The boot dispenser, rather, with the shell mechanism. Open this up, and that allows me to take the big boot up above. Okay, now that we have a big boot, we can do a number of things. Getting rid of this bomb, I don't think it does anything productive, but these things are always fun to try, just in case anything actually does become relevant. This really just disables a lot of these mechanisms in terms of killing some of the triggers for doing the bomb crushes, so I think at the moment that's not actually going to be useful, but keeping in mind what we can do with the stomp and falling elements like donut blocks is probably something worthwhile. So yeah, as you can see here, if you eventually have stiletto, that would allow you to have access to the spring from down below. So here is just going to be a fairly simple interaction there that will take out. Now we have to escort this mole quite a ways. This is something that I had a lot of trouble with yesterday from an execution standpoint, in that I kept either killing the mole or dying to it. The door reset to the left takes you back up to the top left, which allows you to spawn a mole once again. Thank you for the follow. Yes. So this is the thing I'm rethinking from yesterday. I completely missed this. Every time I came here, I was looking at this overlap between the Muncher and the Semi-Solid and instinctively just kind of killing this for no particular reason. We actually do not want to do that. I want to have the big boot available, and I want this muncher to stay alive because of something that we can use it for that I hadn't previously considered. First of all, though, we need the boot dispenser. If it will kindly give you something, we'll try to stay down low and not get in the way up there. We'll also not kill this muncher yet, because I actually do want the mole to be trapped here until we are ready to release it. That's another insight that we didn't make use of yesterday, because by the time I got to this part of the level, I was honestly kind of too exhausted to really do much with it. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have dropped the spring down there. And yeah, hello to Soul M. We're doing fine over here. Just steadily figuring this out and getting back into position. But yeah, so basically that's as far as I got yesterday. That, you know, we spent about half an hour wiping on that room with the big mole due to all kinds of incidents, like the one that you just saw with the trampoline being out of position. But every time, yeah, that was the issue. I was just kind of playing it on autopilot and kept killing the big munchers when I should have been leaving them alive to use them as part of the solution, instead of seeing them as obstacles to be eliminated right away. So that was kind of a major blind spot there that we account for. Notice that you do need a little bit of P-speed in order for the stiletto to do the sneak here. You can't just go directly. Oh, it's also because of the ice, I think. But no, you can sneak in from either side. But notice that if you stop on the ice will also sail you through. So we'll keep that in mind when we see ice, because I feel like that's also going to be one of those really important, subtle interactions that we need to be aware of in order to get through this. So yeah, just a lot of tiny nuances to the boot mechanics that we should use to our advantage wherever possible. Reclaiming this boot right away is nice. I don't always manage to get to do that, except whenever I do, I lose it immediately here anyway, so never mind. We will instead just come through here and exit. This is going to be the swap to the big boot. And then we'll do this and pop upstairs. Okay, so this location, same idea as before. We escort this mole forward. I need to stay alive, and so does the mole, so we'll do that. And just, yeah, at this location, I need to kind of outpace it. So we're going to just come down here, leave everything alive, let the mole get into position and trap itself. Come down here, very carefully take this without dropping it. And here is the change that I'm going to make. This is what we had not done previously. Leave this on top of the cloud. I believe... I actually don't really know the global ground mechanics in Maker 1 that well anymore, but I... First of all, don't remember what the cloud and the semi-solid overlap priority is, and secondly, whether the cloud keeps it loaded. But that's because Maker 1 game knowledge is so far in my past at this point. Yeah, as you can see, it does not stay loaded. But it does respawn over here. So let's make sure we don't go too far without keeping the boot alive. Because the idea here is this. I'm going to use boot to raise the muncher. The reason I'm raising the muncher is because we need to create that platform as a bridge for the mole to get across. This was the missing part yesterday, that I didn't know how to get the mole across, and I kept trying to bounce it on top of a spring in the center here, which meant the mole was repeatedly trapped above the donut blocks and clouds that you see in the middle. So this allows me to escort the mole further as well as keep the spring once we get to it. So we need to be very careful here. I need to kill the muncher without killing the mole, but I think this position will probably suffice for doing so. Alright, so now we should be able to take the mole upstairs. The issue is that I do not want the mole to come back towards me. I hope it actually did get properly trapped. I don't know if that's the case. We'll need to kind of escort everything up as we go. And yeah, so it did come here and it got trapped in a one-way panel. I need to scout ahead to see, because I need to raise it quite a bit further in order to get it to behave. Actually, no, because there's another cloud that's placed up there that seems to signify to me that we're actually going to raise the mole using the boots, like this. Now, I don't think we need this much anymore. I may just clear it as an obstruction. But yeah, we need to get rid of the other muncher first then. This trap is designed such that I should be able to cut through here cleanly. We need to get rid of this guy, because then I can send them all up higher, I believe. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. I actually wanted to prepare this platform in the first place. So the mole got trapped down here. But what I actually wanted to do was I wanted to use these note blocks to bump the big muncher down into this slot on the right side, such that the mole could get parked directly on top of it, because I'm currently not able to raise the mole high enough in this position. But if I have a muncher stacked beneath it, then I'm able to do so. So we're going to go back to where I was, reset, and escort the mole all over again. I think I do need a hard reset here just because the mole got trapped. So let's go over here again and release it. So yeah, once you kind of understand that the level gives you a lot of opportunities to trap a mole and then release it, then the timings feel quite a lot more lenient, because, you know, you're considering them as puzzle interactions rather than something mechanical to be fussing with. And so yesterday, trying to brute force this segment was not productive, and we're already well past what we managed to do then. The issue right now, though, is that we're at 98 seconds on the clock, and that, given the amount of time we spent here, we may rapidly run into some issues long before we hit any kind of checkpoint. So let's try to do this somewhat efficiently. Oh, yeah, no, you see, I forgot to do this, and I killed them all by mistake. But the idea here is that I need to pump this first, prepare it, and once it's loaded in that location, then I do everything else with untrapping the mole over here. Let's just take to death. I do not have time with 60 seconds. Release the Kraken? Yeah. I mean, if moles could swim and if they had tentacles, that is more or less what we would be doing. It's funny because I'm pretty sure we played a couple of tentacular Release the Kraken levels in Maker 2. I've seen a couple of different attempts at that kind of concept. And you know, in Maker 2 there's so few people who kind of design with a very thematic mindset, like they would in Maker 1, that's boss spectaculars like that. Tentacular spectaculars tend to stand out. I'm still continually impressed in both Maker 1 and Maker 2 just how versatile Monty Moles actually are. I think they have steadily become one of my favorite elements in Mario Maker, just in terms of the conceptual diversity that you see from them. Okay, let's drop it. And we'll do this all over again. We'll get over to the boot check and check the boots. And let's wait for this guy. Same sequence as before. Yeah, a lot of the item regression here is quite delicately designed. I totally forgot to do this. Hang on. Let's reset. You know, in terms of having that reset door very conveniently placed. By the way, look at this overlap when you spawn from the door beside the muncher in that one tile gap. This would be something that I think just doesn't work in Maker 2. But there are a couple of overlaps like that that have, of course, changed dramatically. Alright. But yeah, considering how many times you go over this layout with different items, the different progression gates and kind of anti-cheese checks are very well thought out in terms of where you can actually go with rotating the various items that you might be able to carry with you. Okay. Let's make sure the boots stay alive within a reasonable range. And then we're going to do this a few interactions at a time. We're going to take that upstairs, and before we do anything, we're going to not kill this because we do need it alive. We're not going to kill this guy either because we need him alive. And we should still be within range to do everything here with the mole and trampoline. Alright, so now we can do this. We escort the mole up above, we can take it over, and we can weave it back to the right. We should undock at this point. Boot should remain alive for as long as possible at all times, because we'll have despawning issues if we have to get a new one, so let's just drop it over here for a moment. Get into position, and then I better scout ahead to see what I'm doing with this, except I don't want to lose the boot, so let's not do it that way. We can probably afford to get rid of this guy, though. I don't see that he'll be useful at this point. So let's not go too far left or right. We need to see what's going on here. The trampoline is going to bump the mole up. The mole is able to drop down to column onto the right side. Why do we want to do that? We don't want to do that. What we want to do is have it get as far as the P-switch. Now, are we able to do that, or am I short by one muncher? I think the only answer here is to try it and see if we can keep the mole in position. As long as the mole is facing left, I think we're fine. We don't want it to run to the right until we are ready to send it to the right. And so, as long as we stay to its left and have it tucked in... Oh no, it's going to be way up top. That's fine then. Yeah, it's going to trap in that position. That's excellent, that's excellent. So now we have it pressed a P-switch, and then it allows me to clear this. Now, we would still need to stuff something here, wouldn't we? Unless, oh, look at that. So running with the big boot allows you to clear a 2-tile gap. I don't think I knew that. I don't think that works in Mario Maker 2 either, because if it did, that would break all kinds of stuff I did in my own boot level. I'm pretty sure. Maybe it wouldn't, but yeah, so you can cross a 2-tile gap into the pipe using a forward dash with the big boot. That's very important information to know. Now, here, as you can see, we actually are within range to kill the muncher from this position. I don't know if I want to do it yet, because once again, we should probably do the wise thing and scout ahead first, just to see what we're dealing with. This blaster is blocked. Notice that this is not going to be traversable with the boot either, so let's just see what we've got here. Clouds and donut blocks up ahead. Once again, it seems like this is actually something that you need to traverse with a stiletto, maybe in order to bust the ice and head down to the pink coin. We're currently at 0 pink coins still, which is not good news. Just gonna refresh that as often as I can to see there's a muncher up there, so there will be something eventually that I do want to break. Notice too that, yeah, it is possible to slide across this safely, but probably not with a 2-tile boot. You can't get all the way there, so. Now the question is there anything that I can do to keep the boots? Because I feel like I do need to lose a boot here regardless, except we can bump this, and there we are. So if we have a similar interaction that gets rid of the blaster and places... Yeah, we need to get rid of this blaster by using the bomb. That's fine. It lowers the blaster gate. The donut blocks come up, and then I have the ability to come across with the boot. Oh, nope. We'll need to do that again. With 50 seconds remaining, but that's the essence of that interaction, as long as we don't get sniped by fire. I think we understand how that's going to work. So, nice quick progression here all of a sudden. And yeah, you need a stiletto here to grab the coin. We're not going to have that, so we're going to get rid of the muncher instead, and then, with 25 seconds remaining, see what we can do past this door. There was a checkpoint flag with 20 seconds remaining, and that's how to do a mega puzzle in style, always grabbing the checkpoint with a bit of panic left on the clock. There's mushroom check over here. Notice how the checkpoint is going to drop me directly to the right side when I respawn without the mushroom afterwards. Also notice this poor fellow here with the stiletto. Okay, decent progress. We made it past the checkpoint 1 to 2 section fairly efficiently, I think. So the gate's going to open with the buzzy shell coming in from the right side. And then something the exit. Oh yeah, this is just the beginning of the level. So we respawned from CP2 in order to get here, and obviously that's going to affect a number of things. I mean, the fact that we were up in that higher position to begin with meant that we released this shell, which then eradicated the blocks that get you to the right side pipe. There is a little bit of troll checkpoint logic here, probably, in that if we came around here in one go from the very beginning of the level without respawning a checkpoint, we might have some differences in terms of blocks that have been eradicated, but failing that, and also, let me see, was it possible to jump on this shell as it came down initially? I don't think so. The donut blocks do control that in terms of timing. So let's just continue here. You tested the enter pipe with 2 empty block spaces in Maker 2. Not possible. Yeah, I didn't think it was possible. I absolutely would have picked that up by now if it were. Because I would have had plenty of reason to test that myself. And even... yeah, because I'm thinking about some of the one-tile gap interactions I would have seen in Maker 2 as well. Maker 2 in general is a lot stricter about overlaps and spacing. In almost every case that I can think of. Okay, so let's see, we have been able to drop all this, and that allows me to get, yes, the final piece here, which is almost certainly, as I predicted, going to be Big Stiletto. Alright, so Big Stiletto gives you tons of freedom in this level, I think. And we're going to see exactly how much. Because you can just break so much stuff, including stuff that is not going to respawn like this. That allows you to go down and get the spring. Notice that That allows me to send a mole over here and probably spring it above if I can. Yeah, because the mole is likely going to fall into one of these positions. Yeah, the idea is that I want to send it across this way. And then, what do we do from there? Let's check this. You can stomp all that, which is important because if you do stomp all this, then eventually you'll have a mole come over here and do this whole series of interactions, which does what? Doesn't seem to get me anything, actually, but also losing the stiletto here probably wasn't a good idea, but we can just get a new one. Presumably, so. Okay, let's get ahead of it so we know what we're doing. Yeah, because we, once again, want something that will allow me to get up to that pipe. Wait a minute. Looking at that column, do vine spawns go through one-way panels in this game? Now that I think about it. Because that's the only thing I can imagine happening here, is that you have a vine spawn on this note block from a mole stepping on it, and a vine goes through to clouds and through to one-way panels up top. So this is not going to be jump after all, because you have the big stiletto here the whole time. So unless you switch to a small boot somehow, the only way to get up there is going to be through a vine spawn, unless you're dealing with something completely different here to grab that key that is on the left side. Let's rethink that. Okay. Yeah, let's go back down, grab big stiletto, and continue. Alright, very interesting. Notice, too, some of these gates over here that we can stomp on all of a sudden. And which would get me absolutely nothing for reasons that you can see. So yeah, we open this up. We probably want to grab this guy. Nicely placed on top of that cloud. Let's bring this up. Yeah, I think this is not going to be within range to bump that. So anyway, the objective immediately is to send the mole up here. I don't think I should send it through this middle segment here, because I don't think I have a very elegant way to do that, unless we, you know, had it kind of run around over here and do a bit of a toss like that. Which, that created problems. Are they solvable problems? I may have to reset this. Okay, now here we go. And back up. So yeah, we have to remember that flowing through the level as much as possible using the stiletto seems to be the way to almost all of the pink coins that I can see. But let's understand the mole first before we do any of that and mess with it. Now let's see the mole pattern in terms of when it bounces on the lower level. Yeah, we lead it down to the lower level. We then allow it to bounce over if I can. No, that's not going to be right. I need it to drop in such a way that's going to send it quite far. It's going to come down here. Yeah, maybe it is going to be the kind of interaction Yeah, because previously to go up to middle column, it was using the hard blocks that we had, of course, summarily destroyed. If we do not have access to these hard blocks, then what is our mechanism for sending the mole up here? This side. I don't see that we have that. Yeah, the mole is going to come up. It's going to drop in. Possibly we need to place the spring somewhere that would allow it to get bumped. Like, just need to give it a nudge somewhere. We'll have to think about that. Let's just see its pattern first. Let's see the pattern and then we'll decide from there. So yeah, it's going to come down. We don't want it to go down that far. We do want it to jump up here. But if it's coming down directly here, at what point is it going to be able to do that? I think if we left it to trampoline down there, we would have been able to spring it up further by going from below. But we're going to be out of time here, so let's time out, let's restart from checkpoint, and rethink this once again. Because currently, yeah, this is the major obstacle. Yeah, so the donut blocks do prevent you from doing anything too fancy. And I wonder, going back here, if there's anything notable. Yeah, from checkpoint 2, no. I'm of course just thinking A, about the block logic, and B, about the total lack of having to deal with on-off logic in Maker 1. Where you just kind of need to mentally track the states when you play something like a troll, for instance. Yeah, notice that this muncher gate, I kind of wonder how vulnerable it is. In terms of how I might be able to lower it manually. Because it was previously lowered by a POW when we went it a standard way. So yeah, hard blocks do stay broken when they are broken, so we'll keep that in mind for some of the things that we see later, like this. Yeah, because we'll want to lead them all over here, we'll definitely break a bunch of this stuff first. And so we'll eventually need to get ahead of the mole, I think, in order to stomp the munchers down below, otherwise they will be a problem. So it seems. This pipe I don't think we've done anything with. I don't think it has become relevant to us yet, but we'll see about that eventually. Alright, let's drop down here. Let's see if we can spawn them all. Now, can we do the same interaction that we had earlier in terms of grabbing the spring? We should be able to, because of the way that I can bust this down and create a passage down below. So we don't need to destroy these hard blocks, but these hard blocks seem to be placed in such a way that they're, you know, practically begging to be crushed. But if we wanted to keep the stiletto... No, here's the problem, is that there's no way for me to take the stiletto back upstairs if I drop it here and go down below and try to bring the... Yeah, first of all, if I crush this from up above, that doesn't do what I want, because you can't actually drop down below here. You can drop through the central column, which is how I did it previously. So previously I destroyed the right side, dropped down this column, grabbed the spring, and then brought it back up. The problem is I cannot keep the stiletto if I do any of that. And yeah, Let's see. And also because I'm using the stiletto rather than the 2x2 boot rather than the 1x1 boot, I can't get up to the trampoline from below anyway. So I think the crush is going to have to happen. And if the crush does happen, we need to think about how to arrange this differently, such that the mole steps on it. And if the mole does step on it, how do we raise it? Because if we're kind of here, if you have it in a position like this, for instance, and you kind of bump it, I mean, a mole, if it falls down below, it's not going to get enough of a bounce to get upstairs, so. But if we have it in this position, for instance, mole comes down, and then you stomp it to raise this as the mole is coming down. I wonder if that gives you enough of a bump. Seems like it would come in a little bit low. I don't really like that solution. Notice the placement of some of these other clouds, though, I guess. Yeah, doesn't really give me anything I can't already do, unfortunately. However, if this is placed centrally like this, the mole falls in. If the mole falls in, what happens? It bumps against this wall. If it bumps against the wall, the mole has an opportunity to reverse, although it would have an opportunity to reverse anyway because I can position it manually. Oh, here's something that we should notice. This is important. I'm able to bust all this down like this. But I would have needed to obtain this in the first place, so that doesn't actually get me any progress. What I can do is try to progress further to the right rather than the left and see if that reveals anything. That would be a tool that I can use to escort the mole up here. The other thing is if I drop this here, that just stays up top, of course. But if the big mole gets essentially trapped in this location, or actually, here's something to consider, that, yeah, if I can kind of trap the mole, like I need to elevate it somehow, so when the mole comes down, it falls in here. I think the way to do it is this, that I needed to fall down towards this note block, which we haven't used for anything. I needed to reach that note block. And kind of get bumped up to this side here. Like it needs to come down and hit that and jump and jump. Now how do I lead it there? It would need to come over here. It would need to come down to the right. And then it would need to bump over there, but then it would get bumped back this way. I still don't see it. I feel like we would need to tuck them all away where the bum on the right side is currently. Let's see it, let's see it. So that's too much of a bump. But if I send it across over to the donut block, what happens? Oh no, we don't want to do that. Or if I send it down here, wonder what happens. Let's see, because if I can somehow, like, I don't know if it's going to be a bounce from here using this note block to begin the chain by going here, 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 which looks like the most sensible thing to do if you can position that there in the first place. Or if it's going to be some way to use a spring to get it up through the central column here instead. I like this method better, but it would necessitate that you safely get the mole over to this location and have it kind of travel maybe right to left in this location. I currently don't see how to get it in that slot where the bomb is located. That's the thing. So I think maybe that pattern is not going to be it. DI program, back to making? Yeah, I do enjoy making. Let's see how you said that a few minutes ago. Hopefully I still managed to catch you. And good to see you actively making again, of course, after the escape room that we lit last week. Anyway, let's go back to the stiletto. And yeah, all this we more or less understand. As you can see, big stiletto won't get me through here. Here's what I think I will do. I think I will try to do the right side with stiletto. Oh, notice this. I haven't used this passage here at all. Also notice that we are not able to reach the muncher on this side, that this actually specifically prevents you from doing so. So we actually can't get rid of that muncher gate. We can get rid of this gate, which is very much the point. In fact, that allows me to proceed through here, so we suddenly have progress. If I had just thought to check this side in the first place. Anyway, we can smash this, we can smash ice, we can smash all kinds of things, actually. We can, for instance, just stomp that blaster, and then now we have a P-switch that has been revealed. Or a P-door, rather. Now, P-door, what do we do with that? We need to first of all remember where the P-switch was located in this section to begin with. It's a mole activation and a vine down there. Mole, or rather... yeah, it's the infinite P-switch that comes from destroying bomb. Notice that we are going to have to leave the big boot and lose it in order to do that. Because it takes long enough to grab the fire flower that we do have to handle it this way. But that's okay. Having gotten rid of that blaster, that's the main difference here, that we are now able to get through the P-door, presumably with the fire flower intact. Yeah, infinite P-switch is great, and that allows me to get through here at my leisure. And then I need to personally run down here as well as whack that block. Which the note block is going to do for me. We'll grab the 1-up. Notice that this is a stiletto spot. Notice that this is a moon, which is very similar to the mini bar, but not mini bar, but very similar to the pink birdo, rather, the moon code that we saw with the shapes in the cipher the last time we played puzzles yesterday. Okay, so we have another stiletto spot here, very obviously, where you smack the question blocks on the way down, and then the muncher. We need to think about this. Yeah, because, or we would just have to reset through this and see what has happened to the state of the level given that we spawned from checkpoint 2 and therefore would have caused a bunch of block destruction along the way that changes the layout a bit from how I last saw it. Because it's very possible that what we destroyed with the a stiletto on the right side previously is suddenly going to get me a bit of new progression, perhaps. Okay, now we just scan this. Yeah, no, this, the hard blocks stay broken, the question blocks do not. That's something that we understood very well, of course. And setting the mole is not going to do much. However, if we loop back around here and do the P-switch interaction over again, I wonder if anything is altered. One thing that we should potentially keep in mind. Well, let's try this out, actually. Let's grab this guy. Let me check. Yeah, if you try to stomp on top of the spring, nothing happens. You don't get to do the kind of earthquake hit or anything. I'm also looking at that POW on the right side and wondering if it's at all accessible. However, if I place a trampoline underneath these guys and then I raise this... no, the column would just stay in place, I'm pretty sure, so... We can try it, but I'm fairly certain that it won't accomplish anything. Well, it's worth trying, though. Because currently I'm just trying to think about, like, what has actually changed with this layout in any meaningful way since we were last here. Because we need to look for something that has changed. And you know what? I think part of the issue was that we didn't destroy those hard blocks previously. There was maybe the potential for some kind of spawn block. Although we would have seen it with the door resets prior to this point if that were in fact the case. So yeah, as predicted, that doesn't get you anything. However, if we eradicate this gate to the left... Let's go back, actually. Because I suspect there's something here I overlooked. Because when we came in here the second time, we had a lot of things bust open once again. Notice that if we cancel it like this, we can actually do the two-tile reversal like this. That gets me nothing, unfortunately. But it allows all the bombs to drop in and lose the stiletto. Yeah, because the idea was that I can do basically the equivalent of a ground pound cancel with a stiletto. Also notice that we cannot raise this guy. That's too bad. Yeah, a lot of little things here were very carefully thought out, of course. And without the mushroom, we're not going to be able to bust through that side either, so... Okay, we made some progress. Let's flow through it again with the stiletto to see what else we can do with it. Okay, let's go over here. And yes, we'll go up. And yeah, this is what we had seen previously. We will do everything the same way as before and see if about that reversal with the P-switch. No way to get the boot down there, unfortunately, to deal with that brick. So we'll do all this once again. Yeah, no way to escort the boot as far as I know, so we'll not bother with it too much. However, what if I... Okay, no, that just reverses the same way we saw before, so yeah, nothing accomplished there. We're checking out just in case there was something in this looping pattern that would have manipulated that in a useful fashion. There's so many moving parts in this that I can't always check what I have or haven't spawned. What happens if I send a mole through here? It just falls into this location, so that is not useful. Yeah, currently the question is still, how do I escort the mole to the left? Okay, let's do this again. It'll pretty much never happen fast enough for me to reclaim the boot. Will it? I think I do have to do it quickly enough to retain the boot. And that is going to be the trick here. I think that is going to be something I have to modify. However, if I have the boot in this position, what can I even do with it? Not much I can see. Boot would need to be alive at this stage. You would take it over. You would then be able to grab this coin, and you would then be able to bust through this, so... Yeah, we do need to keep the boot up to this point. I don't see a way to progress other than that. But if you keep the boot up to this point, that means this coin here is basically a freebie, which I suppose makes sense in its own way. So yeah, keeping the boot alive should be the priority, and we shouldn't assume that coming back through here and wrapping around is going to produce any interesting result that I don't already know about. So we just need to think about retrieving the Fire Flower with the SMB3 interaction quickly. And I think it should be possible to do that without too much trouble. In fact, it's a fairly quick loop to get back around to this side and respawn everything. Yeah, that's what the donut blocks are for, partly, is that we have the opportunity to drop this. Notice the down arrow is actually kind of cluing you into the SMB3 interaction. I didn't really even think about it previously. Nope, too late. So the question I have for myself is it doable? Or does this take just a smidgen too long for that to be available? Ah, here's one thing we can do. We can try to raise the Fire Flower using the boot. Ah, that would not be helpful because you would be stuck with retrieving the Fire Flower up here, which is not what we want. Anyways, we need to bust this open and activate a P-switch while retaining the boot, and I think if you switch to Big Mario first... no, then you definitely lose the boot because you are just stuck up there for too long while you're damage boosting this way and that. I was just barely off getting the boot, though. I think it is doable. It would certainly have had to be something rigorously tested against. So I'm going to do it and see if we can make it work. Because I feel like if we just got back here efficiently and just dropped the boot in the appropriate location and you know, did this, grabbed the flower, and then got in right away, we would have been able to retrieve it. And that it was an execution mistake more than anything. Because you clearly do have to retain the boot at that point. I don't see how else to proceed just yet, so... Yeah, you have to have it here, I think. Now we should assume, unless otherwise specified, that all of these blocks are going to be containing vines and able to respawn, so... Okay, once again, very short loop to get me back, so... If it is something execution-based, we'll just do it until it sticks. And it should, hopefully, not be too much of an ordeal. Let's send it back here, come back here. So yeah, we just need to be really quick. Nope, need to be really quick, no hesitation. Nope, and then we lost it. Yeah, we can't really be off-center like that because it doesn't give me enough P speed to run across. I'm going to take the death here because we are going to run out of time in this segment anyway. It's probably going to be easier to reset, except I can't take the death here. Oh, yes, I can. Spike. Okay, let's do that. It's not like death marker data to retain. Oh, yes, it is. Death marker data is it's not dependent on the Miiverse comment system or anything, so it is still tracked. You'll notice there were a couple of death markers there in that location, in fact, from people who had probably and hopefully deliberately took a hit there. Okay. Let's grab this. Let's proceed. Then, through here. It may always be something that is not a puzzle interaction necessarily, but something that, or rather not a time-sensitive interaction, but is a puzzle interaction. And that's something I should always consider. That's sometimes things that look like execution challenges are actually easily sorted out if you just apply the right method. For example, if we are Big Mario here, no, we don't really have a shot at that. Or if we find some other way to send a boot across. No, we just need to be super quick, I think. But what happens if I try to raise the flower? It doesn't go high enough, as I suspected, and wouldn't be useful anyway. Here's the other thing. Instead of jumping towards the boot, why don't we just leave it here and slide towards it directly? I am standing a little too far to the left. There we go. So that way, now I can retrieve the boot. Now we'll fire the bomb on the right side, of course. And retrieve the boot again. Yeah, falling into it is much better. Let's try to get infinite P-switch going. And then that does it. Great. More to the point, that also looked correct, which is very important. Now here, every time we hit this, we'll get back to the boot just to tap it and make sure we retrieve it. And we'll send it across. And we'll grab coin 1, because we can now preserve coins at checkpoint, which is potentially important, and might even affect the entity limits if there's some trickery with that. In the event that that's the case. Okay, so now we have the ability to come here with the boot, and we've also kept 1 coin. Naturally, the thing to consider doing is to see if we can do any additional coins. Also, that notice that if we raise this, yes, okay. So yeah, nothing really gets in a position for me here. That's okay. We just need to retain what we can to grab the big boot again on that side. That's fine. That's fine. Actually hitting a checkpoint at some point is going to be important, though. We'll see about that. So anyway, we're kind of back to square one with this interaction here, this guy. Even after having obtained a coin. I mean, it could be, once again, that coin collection affects something, but I didn't really see any relevant spawners in that section, so... Well, apart from all the pipes, of course. So we're kind of back to this problem. And... yeah, you break this stuff. And you eventually have an escort pathway that takes you all the way through here. Oops. And yeah, let's see. You know, if I send the mole only this far, I'm able to jump off of it with the boot. And that gets me nothing because the 2-tile boot doesn't fit in that location. I should really think about whether we can get back to that checkpoint 1, though. We kind of can. Because if we think about... no, we can't, because checkpoint 1 interaction would... Let's see, because if we had that shell drop that we saw much earlier, we need to wrap around with the boot first of all, but once I do that, yeah, let's get back to the left side. Once I do that, am I able to do the shell drop if I jump up here? Am I within range? Yes, I am. Excellent. That is actually exactly what I wanted. Because it allows me to come back here with a boot. Whoa, no, it doesn't. Because I forgot the shell respawns. And I would have been able to... Oh, I can't reset that checkpoint, unfortunately, because we already had it. But I would have been able to get above here. Because the boot allows me to jump on this and get upstairs. This is how we'll progress. We have 80 seconds. That is, I think, very clearly the route. The only thing being that I can't actually keep my pink coin yet. But if we spend less time looping around when we are figuring out how to keep the red boot, I think we will have plenty of time to work with. Anyway, I do see a very clear forward path at this point, so... We'll smack all of this, we'll drop the boot on top of the donut blocks. We'll hopefully have time to spare to grab it. One more time. Oh no. Oh, no. I have to slide very efficiently here to do it. Otherwise, we should actually just blow this attempt, I think. Yeah, that's a pretty tight timing in terms of going back to retrieve the boot. But it's very clear to me that, not only because of this stiletto signaling something to me, that if we just didn't get whacked by the shell the second time, then continuing with the boot, by jumping up here and activating it, activating that shell, is the way to go. And so it's good that we paid attention early to that interaction that allows you to cross a 2-tile gap with the big boot. Terminator, you will notice that today we are playing Mario Maker 1. But presumably you were hit by advertising or something on Twitch and couldn't see what it was I was actually doing. But yeah, we're doing a Mario Maker 1 mega puzzle, or as I think of it, maybe a giga puzzle that we started yesterday. We will be back with Maker 2 tomorrow, though. We will be looking at Maker 2 viewer levels on the usual schedule, I hope. Okay, let's do this once again. Let's be a lot more efficient this time. And you beat my 6YMM level. Congratulations. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't know if you managed to find the secret cake or anything. Whoops. Once again, too late. Alright, you know what? Let's just loop around and let's try it again. There's got to be a cleaner way to do this in terms of positioning the boot such that I don't have so many timing issues here. And yeah, congratulations on getting a cake as well. It seemed like people either got it really easily or had a hard time struggling with it, depending on just how attentive they were to the level. It seemed to be one extreme or the other with very little in between. Oh, you used the level viewer to find the secret? Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, it seems like people get it, like I said, right away or have an extremely hard time. I mean, to me, you know, I see hard blocks and I immediately, in Maker 2, think about destroying them for scroll stop purposes, but apparently that's less obvious to people than I might have assumed. But yeah, apparently it did have a reputation for being one of the tougher cakes just because of a few streamers are really struggling to figure out that interaction. Also, I guess because it is sort of a two-piece interaction, right? It's not something super straightforward. Okay, we need to figure out how to do this quickly. Yeah, if I have some kind of hesitation here as I get in, then that's going to be too slow. If I do this really cleanly, and then also duck under cleanly when I grab the flower, then we can grab it. Great, excellent. Now we need to not lose it. Okay, bomb goes up. Now we do the P-switch. There we go. Atlantis, welcome. Atlantis, don't know if you ever played this one. This is the Return of Ichigo Mole. It's something that I had been looking forward to doing for ages. It is, I think, reputedly either the longest or most difficult puzzle that Tetraterix or John made in Maker 1. And I got kind of stuck in one part when I started it yesterday, but we figured it out very quickly when I got back to it today, so we've been progressing nicely at a fairly regular clip. So this is how we'll do it. We'll come back here. We'll cross this gap, which is a very Maker 1 specific interaction. We did have somebody test this earlier. Also, this is my first time through the beginning of the level with a stiletto, so we should actually see if it gets me anything interesting. I do know... Look at this cat paw here. Yeah, the letter I was a bit suspicious earlier, as was the cat's paw, so I thought I would check that. Also notice this column here, that's interesting. Oh, that's nothing, okay. That's a drop location, I suppose. Anyway, we need to not die to the shell. Because I forgot the shell respawns, and then we get up here. Get up here. And then look at this. This allows this shell to drop. Come on. No, it doesn't, because I couldn't manage to get to that position. But... oh. This doesn't get me close enough, unfortunately. And we're gonna have to lose the boot then, because I... oh wait, no, you can drop it. Like this. I was hoping to smack this guy, but... what happens if you smack both of these? Nothing. That just prevents me from going back. Yeah, okay, so I guess this grinder blade was only useful after all for... oh, okay, no. I was thinking, yeah, it's obviously the mushroom check for a checkpoint, because, you know, you need that in Maker 1, but we've revealed the location of that shell up top, and that seems important, because maybe there was some way for me to get above here. I mean, it seemed like the whole reason that you would have this available is for the purpose of allowing me to drop the shell from this side so I could take the stiletto back here, right? And notice that we also have 2 pink coins now. I don't even remember where we got the second one, now that I think about it. But we came back here. Oh, no, we must have... it must have been the cat paw thing early on. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to that. Let's see. But, yeah, we have 2 coins accounted for. We have these moles coming out here in the intro section. We have this vine being a nuisance. And we've revealed the location of the shell on the left side here that drops down and eradicates those blocks, and then does what? If a shell comes down there, it's going to drop through and hit this. It's sort of interesting that we would have the second shell do that. In terms of eliminating this column here, so... well... and unfortunately, if I don't know how to get back to this first checkpoint, I can't reset it and keep my coins. However, I think I need to reverse into it from the room that it originally led to, if I know how to find my way back there. That would be interesting. So yeah, I guess this didn't give me progress after all, because I was hoping that having this object that wide would actually be able to get me through the door the way that I was able to get through with the pipe. It really seemed like I was supposed to be able to get through that door, but I may be wrong about that. So let's get back into it. And back to the stiletto. Notice that it is possible, by the way, for me to get back to that interaction and try it now. I don't have to go through the other segment that we saw earlier first, I don't think, with the P door. So yeah, this is how I did it. I got through here. Drop that shell. I mean, this is the whole purpose here, right? Like, there's really no other reason to be doing that. Yeah, there's no way to get through that, I don't think. Yeah, so yeah, this is where one of the coins was coming from. I was jumping towards the eye, and we actually did manage to find it. That was the cat's paw, in fact. The cat was tied to the pink coin that I didn't even realize I picked up. And because that's how the camera works in this game, here in Maker 1. The Maker 1 camera... oh, yeah, so you can get through. Yeah, I was thinking, no, that's way too suspicious. You know, there's no way that that was just going to prevent me outright. So now this is interesting, because it allows me to bust through all this and get in through this pipe, and that's going to be new content. If we could somehow activate the POW or find something else to place here to get rid of the muncher, then I can... Whoops, oh no, that was a mistake. That's okay, we'll get through here and we'll see if maybe we can recover an additional boot. So that sends you through here, but if I came through here with the red boot, does the initial camera position that I came in from change anything? Anyway, we finally know what this pipe is for as an exit, although with pipe stacking and one-way pipes in Maker 1, you never quite know what you're dealing with. Let's flow through that again, because I feel like there's some possibility with all of the hard blocks there that we always need to loop around and check for spawn blocks in locations like that. So, yeah, lots of bombs going off everywhere that I can't really even see. And let's just try not to lose the boot this time. Okay, so it turns out you absolutely can go through that door. Yeah, it just looked too suspicious with that half-tile offset on either Build Blaster here. And you see, now in retrospect, I really do love the way that the presumptive mushroom check here at checkpoint is actually being used as a way to progress. So I'm looking at this and thinking that if I respawn through here, maybe if I come through the door, like we need to figure out how to use the buzzy shell on the left, perhaps. There's some fire over here. Yeah, we previously reversed through here. That isn't going to get me anywhere. Nor is this. Let's see. Let's try to respawn through this door here. Red boot. That's the same kind of interaction we've seen before, unfortunately. And if we try to get out of here, this... However, can we kill this guy? No, I don't think so. Oh, within range. Because if I'm able to prevent the drop, well, there's no point in doing that because that would actually lock me. So we can't do that. So yeah, you kind of need to stand right on the edge here. Well, and we can't stomp on that, as I discovered last time. Drop in through here. Alright, in that case, let's see what happens when I take the boot through here. Whether anything interesting happens. Nothing interesting has happened so far. But I'm able to take the boot directly over without dealing with the lower level. I don't know if that affects anything. This prevents me from unlocking checkpoint 1. I get the feeling that that's the level's way of saying, no, you were not supposed to kill that thing. So the thing that is still a problem for me is getting this central mole here. I currently still don't have a way to raise it, and that seems to be the main thing I'm still lacking. I'm able to lead it down here. I'm able to lead it to the right. If I lead it to right, is it able to bounce up one tile as it's walking in order to hit that note block and come back on top? I don't know. We can try it. We can always respawn through here if that's not the case. No, it's not able to do that. So the question now is, am I able to maybe drop something underneath it? Send a spring towards it, perhaps, to get it to come back up. Or perhaps I reverse it somehow and get it to fall in such a way that I can bounce it up here with the spring. Yeah, I'll definitely need to use this guy, I think. I need to figure out some way of doing it that uses that. Stiletto has already busted down to the left side. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, because it's going to come down. It might be able to just kind of bounce around down here. And then how do I get it back up? Like I was saying, I seriously do not think it's going to come up through the central column. Too many issues with that. Not that I've tried it. Not very rigorously. Yeah, it comes down, it steps on the trampoline, it bounces up. Where does it go? And we still have not seen any evidence that coming back through here does anything for me, but we'll keep it in mind because, yeah, we've accounted for one pink coin on the left, one other one with the P-switch section we saw earlier. We just need to go through as much of the existing level as we can, perhaps. Anyway, we've revealed quite a lot more information about the layout, at least. It seems rather important. I almost wonder if we should activate a P-switch to transform coins or something, but let's see here. Okay, so we know how to bust this down. We know that we've previously come out this way. We know how to grab that one coin. But we're still missing this one piece. Right here. How do I use this guy? So far I've stomped through here. I've not found where I want to position this now that we do have access to it. I suspect it might be through a stomp interaction to raise it to a certain position, like we'd seen previously. But the question is where to do that. Like we know that placing it here is going to send the mole up too high. It's not going to work. It does allow me to potentially get the mole to kind of loop around through here. But how would that be useful? I don't know. So this area here. Yeah, once again, notice that we can... Oh, hang on. Bust this down. Yeah. I'm able to stomp this. I'm then able to get rid of... Okay, no. I am able to get rid of the bomb over here. And therefore tuck the mole onto the right side here. I think that's doable if I can send it across. I still think sending across this gap is going to be an issue unless I can figure out how to block it somehow. In the worst case, I know how to send a mole down in this location, but then it will just be stuck there. That doesn't get me anywhere. Let's toss this for a moment. Let's grab the stiletto. Let's try it again. We'll see, because it may just be some kind of blind spot of mine here. We're not accounting for. So yeah, we do want to do the trampoline drop onto that location because it gets rid of the rightmost of these three question block columns here. That means I have access to this muncher. That's why I hadn't killed this muncher previously, even though we can certainly do so. Doing that allows me to drop that location. However, one-way panel there prevents me from actually tucking the mole into that position, so maybe this doesn't get me anything, except a new mole. Okay, that solves the problem. That solves the problem. The mole comes up here and bounces in this location. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize there was a mole tucked in there, because I don't think we had used it previously. So we have solved that location. Excellent. So yeah, that was just a little bit of information that wasn't previously visible to me. But that's because we hadn't completed that interaction to begin with, and it was something I really should have considered much earlier. That's sort of interesting. Why hadn't we triggered that mole previously, even though I certainly had the opportunity to? Also notice that it retains your progress, if I am reading this accurately. Okay, so let's do this. Let's place this perhaps dead center here, in the event that this is actually going to be accurate. Perfect. Now let's try to keep both the boot and the spring as usual. Try not to kill this guy. We're not going to be able to go fast enough to keep both, I think. Yeah, because the spring will despawn at this point if we go this far. I do want to stomp away all the munchers in the central section here. And then I want to lead the mole over to the left, but I need to do it without killing it, so let's drop the boot. Let's get rid of that. Let's refresh the boot. Oh, I can't. That's okay. We know how to get more stilettos. If necessary. Can I get around this guy? Here's the issue, is that I should have gotten ahead of him, actually. I should have lost the stiletto and dragged him over here. Let's take the death. This is going to be an unproductive attempt. Given that we have 80 seconds remaining, I will just throw it, and we'll continue from where we left off earlier. Okay. A couple of little execution things, but we know how to do this so far. We also know the location, or rather the way of obtaining 2 coins. We know the locations of some of the other ones too, I think, but we'll have to establish that as we go. So, yeah, in terms of how we're going to make it back over. Alright, let's open this up. There's a very clear sequence for me at this point. We'll come over here. We'll drop this. We'll grab the boot. For preservation reasons. We'll drop it in this location. And then that's going to give me the instant hit, which is nice. Hang on, let's get rid of this. Although I don't want to get rid of it in such a way that, oh, whoops, prevents me from reobtaining it. Because I think we still needed to bust down the blocks on the left side, didn't we? Yeah, no, I need to redo this then. That's okay, because we know that the access to the mole here is preserved. Past the door once we've blown it up successfully, so that's okay. It's going to be made convenient for me. Yeah, this central dispenser mechanism that allows you to progress through the level with all of these different power-ups is really quite marvelous. I'm very fond of it, contraption-wise. Okay, let's send this through here. Keep the boots. Periodically just keep the boots. And we'll come down here. Actually, no, let's smash things first. Let's not deal with this. And yeah, so I need to stay ahead of the mole when going down to the muncher pit. We need to make that adjustment. Just to understand where its movement patterns are going to take it. I like that the location here is clearly marked and is something that's going to behave consistently. We're just going to race it over. Oh. Oh, did I open it up properly? Yes, I did. Good. Oh. And there we go. So yeah, as I said earlier, vines do go through one-way panels in this game. This is an important mechanical nuance here that we hadn't really accounted for previously. All of that seems like it could be busted down if you eventually manage to get up there, so... Electro Dude, welcome. Now, what is this? Series of tracks. You... got... mold. Yes, we did. And then that opens up. However, I feel like those blocks opening up might have created some additional passageway. Here's the thing, that we've seen enough apparent troll resets in this, but some of them may in fact be progression, depending on what has opened up in the meantime. And so, if it isn't progression, we need to consider what it was that getting that mole would have allowed me to do in the first place. If I jumped off of that mole with the boot, then I get to carry the big boot up to this location. But I can't actually go through this. We know how to be dispensed through this location as well. We need to go back. Because if we have access to the stiletto again and the boots. Yeah, perhaps we should presume that the You Got Mold room is a troll room, unless, of course, I was supposed to retain a boot going into it. Was it possible for me to do so? No, because I had to do the vine climb in order to get to that location. Is there something to that vine climb that we can do? Terminator, if Mario Maker 3 comes out, would I recreate levels from Maker 2? Well, if the transition from 1 to 2 is any indication, there are going to be substantial mechanical differences. I'm not going to recreate other people's levels, if that's what you're asking. I would not do that, because that's up to them. But in terms of my own, it would depend on the toolset that's available, as well as any changes to the rule set. It's likelier that I would make sequels, or modifications, rather than faithful recreations of anything. Because like I would expect that in an eventual Mario Maker 3, there are probably going to be more mechanical changes than we expect. Just like there were substantial engine changes from 1 to 2, including a lot of things that people don't necessarily think about, like, you know, some of the nuances of spacing and overlaps and sub-pixel things, even this interaction here of being able to get through this door with the big boot. A lot of little things like that, so here's the thing. We dropped that upper shell when we were here earlier. Would that conceivably do anything for me? I guess the question blocks would likely contain vines, because if they're consistent with the system used in the rest of this level. And so they would just reload at the end of the You Got Mold segment. Notice this thing here too. I still don't really understand why that gap is there. I guess that was where that's where I came down after that location earlier. That was a mistake. That's fine. We'll take death here and reset this once again. So we basically found two apparent dead-end loops now that do not seem to get me progress, but we always have to be very attentive to whether that's hiding something, so to speak. Maybe the objective ultimately is to try to collect coins and get through this key door as a priority. Like, there is the key that's located over here. We didn't know what to do with this key. We haven't seen it yet. And there are all these question blocks up here. There's this whole top left segment that I think looks pretty interesting. I kind of wonder if P-switch would affect anything there as well. And we didn't really look at the You Got Mold segment very carefully. Maybe there was some way to jump around on the tracks that will allow me to progress, but we might have to go back to that room and see in order to read it accurately. I also, at this point, have yet to find a way to get back to checkpoint 1, which is important because, yeah, I guess if I had a spring there, I took that spring down, perhaps. Let's see, in fact. Because I think I needed spring and boots. Oh, and you needed to complete this interaction, which we can do. We know how to open checkpoint 1 using the other mole. Or do we? Maybe not anymore, given that we can no longer send it through here. Right? Or no. I don't actually need to boot in order to grab this mole. So, if necessary, I actually can preserve checkpoint progress through checkpoint 1. Let's do that with this attempt, actually. We have 2 coins in the bag already, at least in theory. Let's grab the 2 coins that we already know about and see if I know how to preserve checkpoint in this level. I think I do. I think I have the information I need to do it. So let's grab this coin. We know how to do that. We basically found this by accident earlier. I don't know that I would have been able to do it myself if I hadn't just stumbled upon it. Like, that's something that is a pretty subtle touch. Although, the first time I played this level, I did notice that eye right away, so maybe it wasn't too bad. We know how to get above. Let's check it again, just in case there was something to this that I still missed. Yeah, we know what's going on the left side now with the You Got Mold room. We don't know how to get rid of this muncher, which is a very important nuance that I have yet to appreciate. Yeah, looks like we need to do that. And doesn't seem like I have a good way of doing anything down here. Wait! Oh, that's by proximity. How was that by proximity? Oh, because I was within the mole box. Okay, so that's great. That's great, because it means we now have access to this coin. Okay, I didn't realize I could do that. So let's drop in through here. That's significant progress. And I'll grab that. Alright, 2 coins in a bag. And then this is new. We don't want to die to the fire. We also are no longer able to use the stomp here because of this upper layer. However, is my stomping able to get me something else? Probably not. I mean, maybe there's something that would respawn here, but it seems like even the tiny jump. Yeah, as you can see, when you do the ground pound interaction, you wind up with some of these scenarios. Alright, let's not get hit by fire. Let's try to stomp this, actually. That might be important because it allows me to drop this Muzzy shell. If I drop that shell, it allows me to go over to the left. Great. We've got lots of new material now. Now, what do I want to do with this? I want to probably bust open all of these blocks and see what the blaster fires. Shell, yeah, as expected. Okay, so we're in great shape all of a sudden, in ways I did not expect. And that's not really within range of the bomb, I don't think. Yeah, it looks like it is, art-wise, but it is not. Can I just bump this directly? No. I probably want to proceed a little bit faster here. No, I should be able to stomp this. There we go. And I originally thought this would be a P-switch interaction here. But if I bust this down, then what can I do? What I can do is... Let's see, if I drop this... What I can do is I can do some kind of drop interaction and follow that up. So we'll need to repeat some of this because I'm too far from any kind of checkpoint. But let's see. Yeah, let's just continue past here unless I see a reason not to. This is the first time we're through a lot of this stuff with a stiletto, and so we've got a lot of important interactions. So we do need the fire flower here. Notice that this gets me a stiletto. This is new. Okay, so we've got a lot of progress all of a sudden, and if I understand how to use the mole to get me down here. How did I even get the fire flower here previously? Oh, whoops. I did not expect that. Wow. Yeah, no, we got the fire flower there previously because that's where you obtained a small stiletto. I don't know if I can re-obtain a small stiletto there and switch over, but... Whoops. Yeah, so originally the intent of that attempt was just to see if I could preserve checkpoint with as many pin coins as possible, but we've kind of accidentally discovered a significant progression pathway. Because it seemed like a whole ton of the level just opened up all at once, which was extremely satisfying. I don't know if I earned it necessarily, but we are in all of a sudden, and yeah, let's bust open what we can. And let's once again prioritize this part so I can explore what we were seeing earlier. Okay, so let's grab this. So yeah, the cat's paw is actually not tied to that coin. So if you sort of run over and grab that coin by itself, just by being able to reach it with the added tiles from the boot, you actually would be liable to miss that pink coin entirely. So that is very well disguised. In a way that would be quite difficult to uncover, I think. Okay, so we did this basically accidentally earlier, because I didn't realize that this would get me within a mole box to bust open that gate. And so this was the big surprise for me, that I am able to progress through here instead of being ejected. And then... yeah, there we go, that opens up. Let's grab the donut blocks once again. And then slide over. Grab this guy. With a fair bit of time left on the clock, so... once again, we can open that up. Which is also significant. Let's not get hit by fire, very important that I don't. This is just... yeah, these hard blocks are just prevention. They prevent you from getting rid of the muncher on the right this time. This shell launcher. I think it has to do with that coin down there. Oh yes, the coin down there. That area leads to the one of the other pink coins. I remember seeing that from below. Currently, I know I don't have a way of getting it. So let's see here. No way of dealing with this muncher either, perhaps. Hang on. Yeah, no, I would be off by one tile regardless, so... I think we need to come out here and... Whoops. Come on. Jump into that slot. Notice these hard blocks above me. It almost implies that I can go up above and drop back down. In fact, let's check this. No I can't. That's just more hard block space. There, that doesn't look traversable to me. I'm just trying to get out of the way of the fire there so we don't get smacked. There we go. Okay, this is going to be a shell. Can I drop on this blaster? No, the one-way panel precludes me from doing so. Also notice that I'm able to come over here by myself. That doesn't get me anything though, because that gets me back to the pipe that was along our earlier progression path, but it doesn't solve this problem of this coin over here, which I suspect will require me to bust open those question blocks somehow, but I don't currently see how to go about doing it. It may be that I need to get within range of activating something down here, so why don't we drop the boot for a moment? We'll try to be quick about it. Yeah, there's nothing I can activate just yet. I don't want to lose the boot and go through. We are still trying to get some other things done over here, so let's move back. We have discovered something new here, which is that removing this gives me a Goomba hat spawn for free, basically. What we don't have is a way to grab the fire flower safely still, because we previously relied on a small stiletto for that, and here I think we would need a P-switch activation in order to do it. We did see a P-switch down below earlier. We can also link these two doors together now that we're able to move up. Where was that P-switch? I thought I had seen a P-switch here at some point. Yeah, this, I need to drop something here in order to bump. I'm not sure. Can we get within range to activate the shell? No, we can't. Okay, we're doing quite nicely though, I think. What we can do is once again send a mole over. Especially now that we have an additional, to work with, but I think here now the mole just drops into the pit, right? Like it drops in. Oh no, it bounces, okay. The problem is that I don't have a good way to send it over. Alright, let's try this. Let's try to move over some of that stuff. Or continue to the left, which is what we were doing earlier. No, we need the fire flower to do that. We established that earlier on. So in order to do that, what if I got rid of the Goomba first and tried to do something about this collision? Then the mole just falls into this pit, but let's say we send a mole down here, and then we send it down here. Yeah, no, that was correct. I just needed to continue going forward. Then we send a mole over. And then... maybe that doesn't give me the interaction anymore for the small boot then. Or, no, I might be confusing this with an entirely different room, except I believe it was the small stiletto here earlier. Anyway, we'd better... yeah, I think I had checked this and established that this is only doable with fire. Or is that an incorrect assumption? Let's... yeah, I think it is only doable with fire. P-switch on the left, that's interesting. Yeah, that's it. That's how to do it. The P-switch on the left was the P-switch on the right for one of the much earlier segments in the level. And so that's kind of a nice use of the fact that there is no scroll stop in Maker 1, and that you would have a lot of these mechanisms kind of bleed over from one part of the level to another, which are sometimes useful in a very deliberate way, as we just saw. And yeah, that's how you get the P-switch. And the P-switch allows me to open up the white blocks that allow me to grab the fire flower and combine the fire flower with the stiletto. So I now have a very clear process there. What I don't know still is how to get that one pink coin that is located over there. I think we're going to do something slightly different this time. I'm going to do this side first, because I want to grab this pink coin here that seems to be disconnected from everything else, so we can perhaps try to save a checkpoint progress with it. Okay, let's try to do this efficiently. Okay. And then we'll just try to do this once again. Okay, P-switch. And back down we go. And we'll reload into this as much as possible. Notice that when I have my damage boost blinking animation, that also causes the boot to blink, even though the boot is not about to expire. There's a lot of little nuances like that all over this. We have the moon over here. So we're going to keep that one coin, hopefully. So we're going to do a little thing here. I'm going to see if I understand how to preserve checkpoint, so we can start playing with the expectation that I will probably have a timeout. Let's just grab a few of these coins. Thank you for the follow. And yeah, we'll grab some of the outlying coins that are just a little bit out of the way so we don't have to deal with them in future attempts. In fact, the best way to do it is to grab the ice coin, which is coin 3 in my sequence here, because then we can loop back around to the underground section with that one pipe that spits you back in directly. Then we'll see about checkpoint preservation from that point. So instead of doing this interaction here that opens things up, we're going to go back for the moment. Wait, no. I messed it up. I wanted to grab coin 3 first before I did that. Okay, no, I messed it up. That's okay. We'll keep 2 coins anyway since we're already 200 seconds down. So this is how we're going to do it. I am going to open up the gate on the left side. way I'll do it... Ooh, I might not be able to. Because the spring doesn't get me to jump high enough to get there. Okay, so, yeah, no, maybe that's not possible. Never mind. Or does it? No, we have to try it at least once, actually. I shouldn't roll this out before I've actually tested it. So here's the thing. Oh, I shouldn't have busted that down. Okay, now I can't do it, I don't think. I wanted to preserve the hard blocks. Do I need to preserve the hard blocks? I might not need to. I just need to get something to go over to the left to open up that bomb. Because the idea was that I would set them all down here, I would still have the hard blocks active. Was I able to get a spring without that? Perhaps not. Yeah, so some of the progression gating is, as I was saying much earlier, very elaborate. That's kind of a signature of the Tetraterix puzzle mazes. We've played many such levels in the past by this particular maker, and they tend to have some pretty relatively foolproof checks for things that we try to break along the way. So all of a sudden it seems like we've burned way too much time on this because I wanted to open this up and then I wanted to... Whoops, that was a bad idea. I was trying to toss the spring from under so we would send them all up here into this location. Why don't we just toss this? No, because it cuts momentum. I was hoping to get something over here to dislodge the muncher, drop it on a bomb, blow up the blocks, and get me to that checkpoint, which otherwise we have no way of reaching because that checkpoint is tied to the section that is past these munchers over here. If we have a way to bust down these munchers, then we'd also be in business. But things are set up here to prevent that, so... We're going to be low on time. Let's just throw this and just try to do this effectively again. But yeah, coin preservation is a big problem for me right now in terms of just being able to do everything quickly enough. Especially because there is that one other pink coin later on that's still unaccounted for. So I think what we'll do this time, on this attempt, is we will skip pink coins for now. And we'll just try to do the main progression path to see as much of it as we can so I know what's going to get me to that fourth coin that is still unaccounted for. Because I want as much time as possible to figure that one out so we can eventually do all of the pink coins in sequence. Because it seems like you do need to do all of the pink coins quickly in one go. It does seem like that's required. So, whoops. That was an accidental kill. Oddly enough, I kind of missed this touch fuzzy to get dizzy effect that I believe we no longer have with us in quite the same fashion. So, you know what? Yeah, we skipped that one coin earlier. This is not much of a diversion. We'll just do it, despite what I said earlier. So it was really just that one other coin that was a little bit out of the way that takes some extra time to do. The one that is by the original SMM1 white block. What? Come on. Work with me here. Work with me here. This is why it initially kind of gave up on this earlier, thinking that it wouldn't work. Okay, activate the mole. Activate all this. Come down to here. Get this bomb to lower the blaster. Shoot, that's not good. No, that's not good because I needed it for pink coin over there. So, having lost a boot, how do I get it back? I mean, it's not going to be an SD lock. It's, it just requires me to double back then and... no, this attempt is blown, actually. I'm losing too much time on it. I can go through that pipe that gets me back into the subworld to grab another boot quickly, but I think I would rather just try to flow through this once more and reset the clock. Because we need all the time on the clock that we can get to see some of these things that we have not encountered yet. Okay. Yeah, once again, I'm still kind of considering our options with this guy here. Single spring would be able to get me up. It should, but I still don't know how to blow up the left side. Like, it seemed like the kind of mid-air toss into the mole earlier might almost have worked. And it seems like it might be a bit of a cheesy thing. I kind of want to try it again, honestly. It's too interesting not to try. However, do I need to open anything up before I do that? I don't think so. Let's... Yeah, no, we just need to get past the mole quickly. Nope. I think it actually is doable. Notice how it goes back up into that platform. See, now I want to see if I can do it. I really do want to see if that can break open. Just for testing purposes. Still can't get enough of this boot dispenser mechanism. It's just absolute magic. Okay, so. Yeah, so this is set up in such a way that you do have to bust everything down, or almost everything, down to the lowest level in order to have access here. It's pretty cleverly put together in its own right. We'll need to do a little bit of a jump here, I think, into it. Okay. Never mind. I now think I can't do it anymore. Unless I go like this. Yeah, I can't really do it. I have to jump into it, perhaps. No, it seems like it's something that was actively being prevented. That the intention of designing that whole section was to prevent something like that. That would allow me to get access to checkpoint 1 again, so... I think the only alternative is to just do pink coins quickly, in that case. In which case... let's not lose any time. Let's try to do it as efficiently as we can. Yeah, this part is the one that tends to get me. Because we don't necessarily build up enough speed to get back here, but yeah, we managed to get it that time. Okay. Key switch, please. There we go. Mind your P switches and Qs. Okay, don't need to keep hopping back into boot actually, like we were doing earlier. We're doing just fine. Gonna have the 3 1-ups on that hidden moon. Actually, no, that's the wrong Super Mario game. Never mind that. That doesn't do anything for me. Let's take that coin and head down to coin 2. So yeah, I guess the whole You Got Mold part might just be one big diversion, unless I actually did need it to do some kind of off-screen unlocking. But very satisfying to bust that down at the very end. Let's grab this one. I still don't know how I feel about the way that one is hidden. Oh, also, no additional shell this time because I killed it, which is important. I should have just always killed that shell to begin with so we wouldn't get sniped by it a second time. As it happened on so many occasions thus far. Okay, let's not lose the boot this time. This is extremely important. We need the other fellow in position. Okay, one moment, we kind of messed that up. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, so that was an accidental door entry there just now. Let's go back and see if we can do it, because I was trying to go through the ice to get the 3rd coin, and I didn't realize that I'd outpaced the mole that we were activating in that section. 300 seconds left. Okay, sure, let's wrap back around and see how quickly we can do it. It's a bit of a sequence to get back, but at least we don't need to repeat all of the other parts that we've seen so far. Let's go back this way. We hadn't even busted those blocks down yet on this attempt. Hang on. We can do this. A lot of things that are very easy to give up on if you're not careful. Okay, let's step over here so we can... Oh! I thought it was going to be clever that time and step on that shell on his way over so we wouldn't need to deal with it twice, but instead we'll need to deal with it a little more than twice. Okay, that's okay. We'll repeat everything a little more carefully this time. And, no, we wanted to do the right side coin first. Let's do that. Let's try to do it efficiently, without too much resetting this way and that. This coin always worries me a little bit just because of the possibility of losing the boot. I know, too much hesitation there. Let's do it again. Have to be very clean. Nope, that was not clean. Yeah, let's not start over. That would be an awful idea. Let's actually just... Oh, I should have considered just taking the P-door now, in fact. But no, we'll take the DAT and we'll just try to loop through this again. More effectively this time. Oh, 1 second. Alright, kind of blowing it. Okay, let's see. Just needed to get a couple of attempts like that out of our system, and then we will be back in action. Yeah, I just need to get a little bit reoriented all the time after a brief interruption. So, let's go back upstairs. Let's proceed. Bust this down. And do the same thing as before. Yeah, I worry about that interaction a lot. That's, well, it's a bit of an issue. Let's make sure we don't lose the boot. Hang on. That's the priority here. Oh, we're gonna lose the boot. Okay, good. We even got within range of the P-switch that time for 26 seconds going into this bit here. And back to the boot. So yeah, this whole sequence then, even done efficiently, takes about 100 seconds to do, so we need to budget for that if we are tight on time for an all-coin run at a later stage. Okay, let's try to get this done properly. So apart from the "you got mold" path earlier, I'm wondering how much of that is actually kind of critical or required, given that it was perhaps one long blind alley that we thankfully didn't get stuck at for too long. Because maybe it is like the kind of return pipe that we see later on, in that it's a fake out for an actual exit that is perhaps surprisingly close to it. So this is the part that I mean, like previously we just kind of went directly through the pipe. I should have noticed that this cloud is actually a critical location. And this time let's not lose track of this mole, because we do need the fire to lower this gate. And the bomb down below. And then we need to be careful not to lose the boot going here. Good. So yeah, the only thing about this level is that some parts are pretty sensitive to accidentally losing your items and your progress, but we'll drop them through here, drop the shell. Be very careful not to be hit by fire until such time as we get a fresh boot later on. Same idea here, we need to stand apart a little bit to get the shell to spawn. Always need to remember little nuances like that. And yeah, this part here I'm still kind of thinking about in terms of how I'm going to possibly unblock some of this stuff. I feel like in order to unblock some of that, I need a bomb perhaps to be available. Unless I can send something up there from below. Yeah, like if you have something like a small mole that is able to run right to left. Oh, or if you bust down this block completely and then have the shell from the blaster fire all the way across. That's what it would be, in fact, if we can figure out how to set it up. I think I need to despawn that shell first. But then we still have this block here to deal with. This block underneath this blaster. If we were able to destroy this block with something like a bomb in this location, or if that blaster is able to fire, because I don't know currently why it's not firing, whether it's coins or whether it's something that's entity blocked, we would then be able to grab that coin. So I do believe it's going to be an object firing from one of those. Ah, it might be the mole here that we need to lead over. Before we do that, we will grab access to that. So yeah, if you allow this to get busted down, then you can send that original mole over, assuming that you keep it alive up to the one-way panels. Okay, so that's fine then. I know how to do it, I think. We need to jump over it, I think. No, let's reset. I believe I do understand how to do it, though. We get it over here, we get it to come down, jump over to the other side, I lead it down, no, too far. I need to be within range to get that bomb to activate. And I need to keep the mole busy while I do that. Because the mole ultimately needs to go down to that lower level in order to activate the last coin. It might be something worth practicing before I go for all the other coins along the way, except I think the current order does make sense if I'm to do everything quickly enough to get everything in place when I need it. We should go straight back to that, actually, just so I get a chance to play with it, and once we figure that out cleanly and spend less dead time talking about it and puzzling it out, then we can string everything together in its finalized form. So let's get back here. And try to do this whole interaction again, and we'll once again just beeline straight for that to save time and to test it out. Okay, so, yeah, let's not bother with the ice coin this time. Let's just go forward as quickly as we can to open up the path. Let's get out of fire range and continue. Okay, so once again, we want to open up the next boot before we activate the mole. Once we activate the mole, yeah, we actually do need the boot available so the mole can jump across. So let's see how we're going to do it, because we need to be in this location, but we need the mole to not go too far. How do I keep it alive? I need to just get ahead of it, in fact. I just need to make sure that we have plenty of room to outpace it. Okay, so we kind of failed that on multiple occasions, as I was just trying to get the mole in position. Let's try it again and rehearse it properly, because it looks like it is going to be a bit of an execution challenge. Yeah, kind of making a bit of a mess of this all of a sudden. Just one moment while we try to fix that up. Once again, not too concerned about losing time here since we are just doing a bit of a practice run to grab that one coin efficiently until we figured out the correct method for it. And then we'll string our way over to it so that it's collectible as the 4th coin in the sequence. There's still a 5th coin unseen, and we cannot expect that it's something like a safety coin. And in fact, I doubt it is, because none of the coin collection is broken up by checkpoints, so there's no reason to have a safety coin. We have a 5th coin floating around here somewhere that we will probably need to collect separately when the time comes. I don't know if it's something I have seen or passed by already. It might not be. But currently 4 coins are accounted for, and we know more or less how to go about collecting them. So, let's continue. Alright, there we are. And we'll just have to keep that in mind as we search for that final collectible. Yeah, let's jump out of the way quickly to get the shell to do its job. And then this interaction here, which always bears a slight risk of death, because moles are just going to behave that way. On the other hand, what if you don't bust this bridge open first and just allow the mole to go over? No, because I don't want to lose the boot before I've had a chance to unblock. It's just the hard blocks that are the spawn block is in this location. That's the only thing that kind of matters there. But we'll need to do it this way. Once again, I'm just trying to jump out of the way and the mole decides to do that instead. Nope, didn't get within camera range of the blaster that activates the bomb. I was a little bit too far high. So, gotta get in nice and low, and we need to... Nope. Nope, because we need to slow it down. Less to get trapped. So yeah, we need to figure out the specific method for this so we can do it in one shot. Later on, nope, scroll the camera up. Again, too high. We need to see the shell come out, and then I need to jump in and slow down the mole. It does seem unusually fussy. Nope, still not within range. Actually, yeah, here's the issue, is that I do need to pass the one-way panel in order for the red cannon to take that shot. Because I need to get out of the one-way panel, it means that I can't activate it and then go back, which is the main issue that we're dealing with right now. Which is why I kind of need to do it this finicky way that requires me to slow down the mole on the other side. Okay, there we go. Slowed it down. And then I was trying to land here, of course, so we could lead it down. But at least we now know the method. Yeah, we need to do it successfully once, and then we'll see if we can string it along with all of the other coins. Nope. Nope. It's too far. It can't be allowed to go. This is a very specific pattern that is much more execution dependent than practically anything else we've seen so far in the level. Nope, still too far. Like, we need to get back up here and pull it. I really do feel as though I'm doing it wrong. But... nope. Drag it back. No. Okay. Maybe there is some kind of way to stall it. I mean, I know this method works, it's just that the positioning is extremely specific. Okay, drag it back. Slow it down. Drag it over. Drag it back. There we go. Long last. Come on. Go. No. Oh, no, that's fine, because it dunked the muncher. It's just that if there was something like a sound effect, it was off screen and I didn't hear it, and so... okay, we got it. Let's continue for now, but we'll obviously have to redo that with a much faster time in order to string all the coins together, so... but for now, let's just attempt to... oh, we still need to figure out the fire flower, which is going to require figuring out a P-switch. We know how to get the P-switch. We did this earlier. We get the P-switch like this. I probably shouldn't have killed that Goomba so quickly, because it means we'll probably lose the boot. Oh, we got it. Okay, hopefully this is not the kind of level that sends me directly into a flag or something, because I do have a bit of a vested interest in... first of all, what do I do with this muncher? I don't even know what it's for. Secondly, I have a bit of an interest here in... what was I going to say? Ah yes, taking these guys out. In doing everything quickly so we can bust this down. Okay, that's new. Busting these blocks. Wait, we're just back here. Why is this new? Because allowing me to step here allows me to get rid of the muncher gate on the left side. That allows me through in order to do this part here, which then allows me to jump up. E-switch activation is what allows me to get around these coins, or get around these blocks and get the coin. I may need the P-switch to still remain active from the previous room in order to do that, possibly. But it seems that we are missing something. Yeah, so here I need to send a mole up into the middle section. It's able to grab a key. It's able to hit a P-switch, and allows me to grab the final coin. We're going to time out here. And this allows me to bust back down here if I perhaps have a boot. Okay. For the sake of learning the interaction, let's speed back towards it so we understand what to do. I think I know what to do, in fact. The whole time we understood that dragging the mole down here to the left side is one big fake out. What we actually need to do is remove this muncher gate and have the mole that spawns all the way up top escort. And we need to escort it all the way to the left, and then we send it up into the area with the P-switch and key. I think I know how to do it. And in fact, I think I know how to do it efficiently enough that we are going to go for the 5-coin run. Or... well, no, we actually don't know where coin 5 is yet, so maybe that's a bad idea. Let's see how much setup this requires so we know how many difficulties we'll run into. Let's not do the full coin run yet, then. Yeah, so the progression involves getting into this position here, where we see these two hard blocks. That allows me to open up the gate back to the starting area of this subworld. Okay, let's just try to do this efficiently so we can wrap this up as well as we can. Given that we will hopefully be within striking distance of finishing. Just a lot of potential execution mistakes to get out of the way, of course, including a lot of locations where we might potentially lose the boot. Okay. Let's not get hit by fire, that's number one concern over here. Yeah, this muncher was just part of the gating mechanism. We almost got hit by fire. Naturally. And yeah, we don't need to worry about this mole for now. Let's just get the fire flower and not fuss around too much with the setup. Nearly got smacked. Okay. So we know how the P-switch goes. I probably killed the Goomba too early that time because I lose the boot. We got it. Now we send a boot through. So this section, if you know what you're doing, doesn't take too much time. I do need to reclaim the boot afterwards, quickly and efficiently. Then we get through here. Smack this. Notice that it takes priority over the stomp. We do the hard block like that. I think eventually I'll need to outpace the mole to get back here quickly to do this, because the muncher would respawn, wouldn't it? And then mole bounces up, up, and then we need to make sure it's dragged here to the left. Oh, and then we need to make sure it doesn't bounce off of... no, that's fine, because it's a ceiling above that. That's okay, we just need to send a mole into that central location then, and that accounts for everything we need. So what it is it's going to be the same one that we saw much earlier. It is going to be this whole interaction. It'll take a little bit of time to set up. Hang on. We need to learn how to do it quickly because the coin path is so speed dependent. We grabbed this and we placed it under the door. And then, well, we need to not lose the boot. We lost a boot. That might actually be okay. No, it's not okay because I need the boot to get through this area. No, that's okay. We can get another one. But when I do the all coin run, we will not have the luxury of time to make mistakes like this. Because look, even without all the coins, I'm already down to 200 seconds. We know that one of those coins takes about 100 seconds. And that some of the other ones are less out of the way, but still a little out of the way. So let's do this quickly. Drop it. Yeah, well, I've already dropped this thing here. We need to do this fairly rapidly. And then we drop this on the door. Why is there no mole there? Oh, because it needed the muncher to be in position, right? Why is there no muncher there then? Let's... respawn again. Now the muncher's there and now the spawn should happen, so... Except we have no more boot. Okay. This is actually... slightly disastrous, but we need to see this route so we know that there aren't any additional complications. No intention to make this the clear anyway, since we do need to do the coin road. Okay, let's do this again. I actually probably want to open up that bit as early as possible then, so we can spawn back here efficiently later on. Okay, we need to go, and we actually do kind of need to outrun it. Because otherwise we run into this issue here. Yeah, so I need to outrun it pretty effectively to get rid of the muncher gate before it deflects. This is going to be a tight timing, wow. So I need a better way to trap that, I think, and beat its pace. Because that is quite a race to get back there. Okay, we must keep the boot. I have to remember that. That's okay, we've solved it. It's a purely execution challenge now, and so it's just a matter of doing it cleanly because we do effectively have the whole puzzle element of this mapped out. Okay. Nope, and I missed, and I despawned it anyway. So you can't outpace it by that much. But then, yeah, so here's how it is. Let's rehearse this. We've got 20 seconds left. I deflect off here. I try to run from this location, perhaps. No, we need to figure out how to do this bounce really, really accurately. Because we need to lower the gate and make sure the ball doesn't fall in. That's going to be tough to do. And we'll need to do it at least twice. Once to learn it and once to do the 5-coin run. Actually, let's map out the final route now. Because I feel like there are enough time checks that we don't want any surprises. So let's just do everything that we've seen so far so we know what kind of time budget we have available. We'll be out of here relatively soon. Okay. No, hang on. Let's do this again so we can fire accurately. Once more for the P-switch. And of course, the faster we go, the higher the likelihood of some kind of mistake transpiring. We'll try to be clean about it and get out of here with about 4:16 on the clock, pretty close to where we were before, I think. And then, yeah, I actually think I do want to do this bit in advance then. Because then we don't worry too much about the setup time for this. later, assuming that I can get back to my boot. Since we know that this gate is preserved. And then we don't need to deal with the Muncher spawn here either, so we'll eventually be going back to that section, but not yet. For now, we go through here. Come on. Come on. 357. I can imagine, particularly if you're unfamiliar with the engine differences in Maker 1, that it's very easy to just give up on that pipe or the upper door here happening. Simply because if you miss it, it looks like it just doesn't work at all with that spacing. But of course, back when Maker 1 was the only game in town, perhaps people were a little more confidently expected to know some of these minor mechanical nuances. Alright, let's not despawn this guy. Let's make sure we get the ice coin. That's plenty of distance that we're covering there. Okay, wait for the fire so we don't lose to it after we remember to open the gate. Okay, now we wait. Still one coin unaccounted for, we need to remember that. Okay, this is the moment of truth, the fussy bit here with the mole. We're going to open up what we can first. Then we will hang on. Yeah, and then I can actually come up here directly, I think. Slow it down. Drop it to the right. Drop it to the left. Drop it to the left again. And here we are. Okay, 2:29 seconds remaining at coin 4. That's our benchmark currently. We might have to do this quite a few times, depending on how tight we are at the end, so we'll just get the P-switch done as quickly as we can. And then I keep forgetting that I shouldn't kill the Goomba prematurely. That's okay. Managed to get it. Come here, we bust this down. Come here. And then we smack all this, and that allows me to open up the final gate. Or what looks like the final gate, and that's going to be 182 on the clock. Yeah, notice that you have to be fairly accurate here. I feel like, well, there's some likelihood of having to retry that, but luckily we have opened up this gate already, and the main thing that we need to do is place a spring ahead of time. Place it here. Okay, let's race, but I also can't despawn it. So we gotta... Oh, and the gate actually uncovers by itself. Okay, the gate is preserved. I didn't realize that. So we were fine. I don't need to race it that hard after all. Alright then. That was actually not as bad as I feared then. Given that we had just unlocked everything in advance. I should have figured that, given how generous some of the other gates in this level are about remaining open. So let's drag them over. Okay, got that. Got one key. Got two keys. Well, naturally, we're going to take the first one. 88 seconds remaining. And this is a boot check. And this is going to be the second key check. Okay, we need to pause here because this is the minibar code. Not that I keep saying that. Yeah, I keep thinking that because of the Tetramino translation level from last year. This is Pink Birdo's level, rather. Pink Birdo's level that we saw yesterday. Let's see if we can dig up the code. Alright, so we have a... we'd better make sure that I have the correct level. Put it down here. I also have my escape room notes from last week that I still haven't finished up with. But we'll jot this down on a notepad. So the code has a triple diagonal. It's going to be A, has the kind of I here, has the E, has the two rewind arrows. I think that just actually just says awesome, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because the axe shape is O, the M is the reflected W after that, and it is another E at the end, and then there's an exclamation mark at the end, I suppose. That's what this is. Now, we're pretty short on time. We bust this down and fly. Let's hide this, first of all. So I actually don't know if that even appeared on the note screen. So this is the final message. It just says awesome broken over. 2 lines plus the exclamation mark at the end. Okay, so we've got 60 seconds. We've got to fly out of here and see. I suppose there was the check at the end of the pipe earlier. Yeah, no, it's fine. And we'll come back here. I shouldn't mess around and see what was on the other side. That would have been a bad idea, if you think. Oh. Then this just bumps you up. Yeah, let's not mess around with this. And there you go. That's a completion. So, yeah, between about a 3-hour sitting with this today and the little bit over an hour that we put on this yesterday, that's actually better than I expected, given that this was reputedly the all-day puzzle that was much, much longer than the previous Ichigo level that was also designed to span about 3 to 5 hours among some streamers. We made excellent progress today, though, despite the one part that it was stuck at yesterday. And it was mostly just a matter of flowing through it to make sure we could string it all in one sequence at the end once we rehearsed some of the things that were a little more execution dependent. We are filling that world record time, of course, all the way up to the full 99 minutes. If I had time, I would see if we could do the single segment run to contend for that 7-minute record, but unfortunately we will not be able to save for that today. So thank you for the GGs from Atlantis and Must Run Fast. Hope you enjoyed what you saw. This was an excellent level. I will put the code in chat once again for people who still have access to Maker 1 and want to take a look at it. As I understand it from what John or Tetraterix was telling me, as I said in a previous stream, this might actually be the first live-streamed clear of the bonus objective. Despite this having been released 4 years ago, we might actually have achieved a first to our knowledge. And honestly, getting the coins together at the end was not that much of an additional burden to flowing through what we already understood about the level. And yeah, as we said about the Yukon mold room, it did turn out to be kind of proximate to the thing you actually needed to do after all, and the whole thing came together quite nicely, I think. So that will be the only thing that we complete today. We will be signing off in just a moment, but I did not play the original Ajigo Mole level, and so that's something we'll want to go back to at some point, including a lot of these older ones that I have still not seen. But we'll bring in more Maker 1 as we go. And yes, CG, DEH, etc. definitely quite the pog for Maker 1, which we've been kind of doing on and off over the course of 2022. We will be back to Maker 2 tomorrow for viewer levels, though, and then any other programming like this, we'll kind of intersperse it with the Maker 2 puzzles once every now and then when we find it's nice and convenient to run with the Wii U instead. So, once again, wonderful puzzle level by John or Tetraterix, who couldn't make it today, but who will be catching up separately with the VOD. So, cheers to the maker, cheers to all of the viewers who came along for this adventure, and we will send you off somewhere else very shortly. So, farewell for now to Course World. Thanks for watching. We'll find our raid destination. And as usual, have a great weekend. See you tomorrow if you have submissions coming, and fare thee well.